Hey.
He's talking. All right. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
This
Happy
is
day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's our Thanksgiving special. So we're coming at you a couple days early. And what do you got going on for Thanksgiving, Merle?
Oh, I got the kids coming over for Thanksgiving and got a turkey in the refrigerator getting ready to be cooked. And my mouth is watering already.
We do the same thing every year. We don't want to mess that up. We go out to Painesville, the entire extended family. And of course, I bring my nearly world famous garlic mashed potatoes, which I'll be making early in the morning. And Lisa does her really highly demanded roasted Brussels sprouts and green beans.
Wow.
Separately. It's not a same dish. Separately.
Right.
Yeah, by the way,
sounds great. Yes.
She wanted me to make an announcement. She says that we have spread fake news on O5O.
Once we've done that, or is that it? That's not too bad in 2.5 years or 2 years.
Right. Now, she said that she was offended that I said that she uses recipes. She's like, I'm a Sicilian Italian. We had this conversation. I said, I never use a recipe. And I said that, but I've seen Lisa come up with some creative dishes and use a recipe, and she got really offended by that and is threatening to sue us for defamation of character.
Oh, well, you can have everything in my wallet. It's nothing.
Oh God. By the way, last Saturday, I hit my ribs really bad in a fall hanging a shower curtain at a rental place. And I mean, the way I bruised this whole side of me really bad. It hurts to laugh.
No,
it hurts to do anything. So yeah, I got to take it easy. And it's the laughing that, and if I feel a sneeze coming on, I do everything I can to prevent that from happening.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So I forgot all about it until you just made me laugh. Right there.
Sorry about that. I plan on being very funny this episode if I can be. I can't help myself. Hey, so falling down isn't what it used to be, is it?
That's a good way to put it. That's for sure. I still bounce back pretty quick, I think, but I don't want to jinx myself because it's been, 4 or 5 days now, and I'm fine during the day, to tell you the truth. It's sleeping because I'm laying on these bruised. It's like deep bruise. All through my one side. Yeah.
Do you normally sleep in the same position every night?
I favor sleeping on my right side, but I need to break it up. I need to go to the left side a little bit and just on my back a little bit. On rare occasions, I lay on my stomach. What about you?
Yeah, I fall asleep almost in the same position every night, and and I'm always on my left side. And it's funny because I sleep on the same side of the bed every night, and sometimes when I travel with Anne Marie, she wants to switch it up. Oh, and it just does not work for me.
No, of course not.
I'm like, why are we doing this?
So now you're on your left side and you're nose to nose with her, and you're like, what the hell?
Hello.
I'm breathing your air.
It just doesn't work. I like to kind of have one foot over the side of the bed, and if I'm on the other side, it doesn't work that way. So it's really messed up. So
I know. I have a topic I've been wanting to cover for a little while about. The title of it's Why We Are Still Struggling with Sleep, and it's an amazing science that I only started listening to, and now I can't think of his name. There's a guy, Sam Harris, that's his name.
Okay.
Sam Harris is a neurologist and something of a, not psychologist, philosopher. Mm-hmm. And people like Jordan Peterson talk about him often. Jordan has a great respect for him, but disagrees with a whole lot of his stuff. But Sam Harris has quite a following, and he's got a whole podcast on sleep. And it's something that he has struggled with throughout his life. And I only got about halfway through the first episode, and it's really fascinating, the science behind it. And
really,
Yeah, and I'm not ready to talk about it yet, but since we brought it up, I want to just introduce the subject because it's fascinating when you think about dreams and how real are dreams, what are they, where do they come from, and
Huh.
and how every species needs to sleep. And it gets really complicated once you start listening to somebody that's studied it their whole life,
Right,
start talking
right.
about it, and then the effects that take place if we don't get good sleep, which I'm not getting good sleep right now, by the way, because it's painful.
Yeah, pain, it really inhibits the sleeping, doesn't
Yes,
it?
it does.
I really hate that. I, on the other hand, have been having just phenomenal sleep lately. Wow. And I've been having these really vivid dreams. As a matter of fact, over the last week, I had at least one dream that you were in. And here's what happened is that you and I were at Cleveland Hopkins Airport, and we were coming to California, as a matter of fact. And we'd made it through security, and then you said you were going to check on something, and you had my bag for some reason. And then I looked at my watch, and it was time to get on the plane, and I was like, wait, where's Barry? And I was in a panic, and I was calling him Barry, and I was running through the airport, and it was weird because the airport was in this little oval, and I just ran around in a circle looking for you. And then I was like, oh, yeah, well, let me just find the plane. And for some reason, I couldn't read the airport signs, and I woke up all in a panic.
Yeah, boy, that's a dream. I was
kind of mad at you, actually, when I woke up.
I bet. That's a dream for you.
I've had a couple of dreams where I was either late for a plane or I couldn't find my gate, and I decided, I'm going to look this up and find out what does that mean. And didn't actually like what I found. It said something like, I feel like my life is out of control, and then I'm panicked about stuff. And, I can relate to that with the kind of looking for a job and all. So that was that. But I had a couple other dreams lately about flying, actual flying. And I always had a fantasy that I could fly, but in my dreams, I can never control where I go. It's like the Greatest American Hero where he tries to fly and he flies into a billboard. It's the kind of dreams I normally have about flying. But in this particular dream, I could fly wherever I wanted to, and I could even do tricks in the air.
Oh, wow.
And so that's got to mean something good.
Yeah, so I think so.
But I didn't look it up because I was scared that it might say something bad. So I'm just going with the good.
I don't think it would. And also, you have to realize you're reading theories. I mean, it's not like somebody knows you, studied you, and put everything together there. So I would take it all with a grain of salt for sure.
Yeah. It's just, it's kind of fun to think about, though.
It is. And we're going to get back to this dream when I do some more research on it, because it's a fascinating study. Once we start talking about, once I start raising some questions that you had forgotten you even had those questions too, it starts getting interesting. But one of the biggest conundrums about sleep is the harder you try, the more you get away from it. And that is kind of metaphorical for probably the greatest things in life. And I don't take that the wrong way. I mean, it's because what I don't mean is, okay, you got somebody that's just super driven into reaching their dream of their career. And, as somebody is super driven, I wholeheartedly inspired by these kind of people that reach those kind of dreams. But I think it's kind of like faith. Some of the most higher end, it is like faith, because it's letting go, letting God. Letting go is such a philosophy in and of itself that there's probably whole books written on it, because that's really hard. Letting go and trusting in God. Come on. When the chips are down. Well, that's the whole thing about sleep, the kind of same metaphor. The harder you try, like, damn it, I'm going to get to sleep within 20 minutes because I only got 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't work out so well. Yeah. Not, or, it's typically like, oh my God, I only got 6 hours to sleep. So I better get to sleep as soon as possible. And then, you look at the clock. Oh my God, I only got 5 hours. And And, you know, we've all known that, but we will come back to that. As I said, in a soon to be had episode in the near future. But Merle, I understand that you had some things up front here you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, I had some really great interview experiences lately. I think I was talking about this in the last show, and I have a document here that a recruiter turned me on to, which had to deal with your elevator pitch. And I thought this would be something that would be great to share. And of course, you know, your elevator pitch. I remember when first hearing about this, it sounded so corny, but it's actually a really good thing to be able to have, not only when you're looking for a job, but when you have a job. You want to be able to talk about what you do in a concise manner. They call it an elevator speech or an elevator pitch because it's something that you could say very briefly, like for instance, in the span of an elevator ride, and very concisely. So I just wanted to share some tips that I was able to get from this article, and hopefully we can share this this link to this so everybody can see it. But your elevator speech should be very concise. Let me just read the bullets here. You want to keep your speech very short and brief, between 30 and 60 seconds. I'll give you a couple of examples at the end. You need to be persuasive on this as well. You want to share your skills and practice. You want to make sure that when you give your elevator pitch that it doesn't sound like it's a rehearsed kind of thing. You certainly don't want to be monotone when you do this, but be yourself. Be positive and flexible, and mention your goals. Know your audience when you speak to them, and have a business card ready to hand out when you give this. Another thing is, you don't want to speak too fast, but you also don't want to be rambling on and make sure you keep this to 30 to 60 seconds. I'm going to give you an example in a second. Here's one is don't frown. I don't know why you would frown when you're giving your speech, but don't do that. That's a don't.
Well, that's a good one.
Here's another one is restrict yourself to a single elevator pitch. You may be doing two different things, or maybe you're looking for two different kinds of jobs. You want to be succinct. You don't want to be confusing. You want to be spot on these things. So keep it to one. Again, practice. Let me give you a couple of examples. I think this is actually pretty cool. Here's one. I have a decade's worth of experience in accounting, working primarily with small and mid-sized firms. If your company is ever interested, or if see, this is why you got to practice. Yeah. If your company is ever in need of an extra set of hands, I'd be thrilled to consult. And here's one that's sort of along the lines of your kind of business, Barry, is I create illusions for websites and brands. My passion is coming up with creative ways to express a message and drawing illusions that people share on social media.
Now, what's good about that, I thought that you would get that into one of your earlier bullet points, but some of the better advice I've heard in the past on elevator pitches is make sure you create a question that they want to ask more about, they want to follow up on. That, I think, illustrated it. That one right there about the illusions on websites. Now you're going, wow, what does that mean?
Yeah, illusions on websites.
Get them engaged.
I want to see that.
So that's a good one. It's a good example.
And if you are looking for a new position, you want to definitely talk about what it is that you're looking for. That's how you want to end, and be succinct on that as well. This isn't a resume that you're giving. You're not trying to give all the facts of your career or anything like that. It's sort of like a movie trailer. You want to give them enough to want to know more.
There you go. I think you said it really good there. Now, I would just expound on that a little bit, that if you're like in a networking group type situation, you definitely want to be prepared with the 1 minute, the 30-second to 1 minute spiel, where you can, expound on some things. But if you're at a party, if you're truly in an elevator or something like that, man, I think you better be able to give that in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're being self-indulgent and people just want to get away from you.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. You never know what floor these people are going to get off on too. So
makes all the difference, doesn't it?
It does, actually.
No, I think that that's really great advice. Because of being in marketing for so long, there's so many versions of it. You could take this as far down as your phrase that's called a slogan. And so you really pare it down and just kind of hopefully hit your target audience with what you do. Like, I create dynamic branding materials that target your audience. That's mine. Okay. Dynamic branding materials. And that is truly descriptive of what I do. And the fact that I target your audience is definitely the priority. But then you can even think of, well, I guess I said it. There's the introductory phrase where you introduce, you're shaking someone's hand and hey, what do you do? Don't go on for 30 seconds. So have a two. I think the one that you gave about the I create illusions on websites thing is perfect for that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think so too. And notice those were very short and sweet, probably under 30 seconds. But here's something that's interesting too, is that as I was practicing my own, I noticed that time gets away pretty quickly. That 30 seconds to 1 minute seems like 30 seconds to 1 minute when you're doing it. But then when you look at, if you're timing it, it always, time goes a lot faster than you think it's going.
Yeah. And for that reason, make sure that you at least allude to who your target audience is so they can qualify themselves, and then to the results that you give that target audience, and that you can get more concise within that time frame.
Again, practice, make it yours. But you want to feel good. You want to feel good when you're doing this. So, it's funny. You mentioned these networking groups. I used to belong to a pretty big one. And I remember, one of the things was you go around the room and everybody gives their little elevator pitch, and the good ones really stand out. I mean, like you really remember those, and the way that they give them with enthusiasm, but not fake. It draws you to those people. You want to talk to them after the event is over, just because you like them. There's something about an elevator pitch that if you do it the right way, you genuinely have, the other person genuinely has a warm feeling towards that person.
And it's not just that. It's when you have it down. I'm punctuating your point on when you really have it down, and you believe in it, you got it nailed. Your enthusiasm with it will shine through, and boy, is that contagious. That's the person that you're talking about, where somebody that gives that perfect elevator pitch, you like them, and it sticks out in your mind. That's what it takes. Is you gotta know that you have it nailed and that it's true and you believe in it.
It's reminding me of something that I have a guy that I'm very I admire a great deal. His name is Casey Fleming, and he was talking about his top 3 rules in selling, and people buy from people they like. We've heard that all of our lives.
It's so true. Right? So true.
It really is. And it really ties into this whole elevator speech. That was the next one. They must respect you and trust you. Mm-hmm. And then finally, number 3 is you got to make logical sense so that they'll listen to you. So you keep those 3 bullet points in mind. Yeah. It's easy to say these things, but it's quite another thing to put them into practical use. So again, it comes back to practice, and practice sometimes means do it in front of somebody that you're not going to feel comfortable in front of when you do it. It just brings me back to when you were in that speech class when we were in college, and you would do those speeches in front of me, and it was so awkward, but at the same time, it helped the whole time too.
It helps so much.
When the positive laugh at yourself, that was the thing, Barry, that I thought you did so well, is that you can laugh at yourself, and that made it really fun.
Yeah, well, you guys nah, you guys, you and your brother, you give me this positive feedback when I practice my speeches. It's life-changing at a pivotal point in your life, like college. I mean, I always thought that about speech class when I took that class, and I would do that to myself. Like, oh, this isn't for like, another 4 months from now. So it's like, it's never going to happen. And I'll sign up for it. And the fact of the matter is I was like most people, especially at that age, I was terrified at the thought of getting up in front of the class and doing these great big speeches. And that's why I did it. And so I watched a lot of people fail during that class, and I'm sure that had a ripple effect on their lives. All right.
Yeah.
And that's why I work so hard on that, because I was really afraid. We've all heard people are more afraid of giving a speech than they are of death. That's quite a statement right there.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think that's my attitude ever.
But you had
a speech.
But you had a really funny story about I remember when you were in 5th grade. And
oh yeah, that was my first speech. Yeah,
people thought you were having a heart attack.
I thought I was having a heart attack. Actually, I thought it was a speech on UFOs, and I had studied all about these UFOs and everything. And so I got up in front of the class, and I didn't even get a minute into it, and I was having a panic attack, but I'd never had a panic attack before, and thought I was having a heart attack, and I clutched to my heart, and I couldn't hardly breathe, and I ran out of the room. And several of it was so humiliating. And later on, several of my classmates told me that they thought that a UFO had come in and like was mad that I was talking about them and shot some kind of beam into my heart or something.
Oh, trying not
But you'd
to
think
laugh.
I would never want to do a speech again after that. But
how do you think you got over that?
There's just something about my personality that it made me mad that I couldn't do that, and so I had to face it and do it some more. I guess. I mean, that turned out to be my major in college. So
right.
I don't know why I would. What's wrong with me? I don't know, but it's worked for me all these years. Have you ever had a bad experience? So I mean, that was my first one, but have you ever had any something just go terribly wrong in a presentation before?
Not off the top of my head. I didn't know that that's where you're going. My mind was going in a different direction. But not terribly. No, not terribly. Because I over prepare. That's what that class taught me, is that I had that typical fear and anxiety of doing speeches so badly that what I learned from that is prepare. So you can say the speech without it's so prepared that it's coming out your mouth and you're not thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've had these experiences in sales where I have a lot of times in my line of work, I've had to show up with a sales engineer that gives a demo of the product. And the problem with that is a lot of times the demo doesn't actually technically work. And then you got to dance. And that is a terrible, terrible place, because you've got these people that you've brought in at C-level. They don't have a lot of time, especially for something like that. And I tell you what, that can cause some serious anxiety. And, but at the same time, it's experience in that area is actually not a bad thing, because something can go wrong no matter what. And when the more you learn how to relax in a situation like that and realize that even these C-level people have stuff like this happen, the more calm you can be, the more that you can be relaxed and actually guide people through, an alternative plan. Yeah. That's actually a pretty cool thing to be able to do. And I've had a lot of experience doing that.
Well, that's
unfortunately,
when you really know your product. And that's a must, so that you can, it's just like giving a big sales presentation, as you're saying, to really important people. And then you're open for questions. you better be able to field the hard questions.
Well,
so
Barry,
seek out the hard audiences.
I'll add to that too and say this: it comes back to being likable and being trusted and being able to say something that makes logical sense. Everyone, and there's a psychology to this, that everyone can feel empathy towards the person that's in the spotlight like that.
Yeah.
And somebody that can gracefully maneuver through that, even make fun of themselves without that nervous kind of laugh and everything.
Yeah.
People genuinely warm up. Sometimes it could be the very best thing that could happen.
Agreed. Steve Jobs was notorious for that. I don't know if notorious is the right word, but he was very respected for that, because I'd read about that. He would be given demonstrations at Apple World. I think that's what it was called. And, tech goes wrong all the time.
It does.
He could roll with it on a worldwide stage. He could roll with it.
Yeah, it's an amazing talent, but it takes, again, practice, and
a belief in yourself.
Happens in front of the customers or in front of a world stage.
Yes, and I'll say for the 100th time that if any of this is like prohibitive to you, like you won't expand in your career because you just can't stand being in front of people and all that, go to Toastmasters. I've said it 100 times. It is a really positive environment that with positive feedback that you'll learn what you're not good at, but be able to improve on it and make the mistakes right there in real time. And you'll be proud of yourself when you go home. It won't be a bad experience.
I've never heard anyone say anything negative about Toastmasters. Always super positive. Wait, is there how much, like, was that a big investment to be involved in Toastmasters?
No, I think it was like I think it was $90 every 6 months, because I wouldn't go in the summer, like through the nice months of the year. I'd be riding my bike, and who cares? I'd pay for it though. I mean, so it wasn't so big that I didn't care. And but then I would show up in the fall and it'd be like, it's like what I started doing during COVID is I said that I got to watch and make sure that I have my time allocated for in a positive way during the darker months of the year, or I could start sliding in that seasonal affective disorder, that depression. It's happened to me many times over the years. You don't notice it. It happens so slowly. So as I said, about a year ago, I started doing volunteer work at the Nature Center over here. And boy, that was a good move, a really good move. But like I said, in other ways, you could do something like Toastmasters. And it's a really great way to be around positive people and doing something productive when you may be just sitting at home watching Netflix during that time, usually.
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember living in up in Cleveland and Chicago, and as spring rolled out, you'd see people outside finally doing stuff, and wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And boy, everybody was so pale.
Yeah, that's how I'm starting to feel already. Hey, you want to make a switch towards some more like transition with some entertainment stuff? I got something.
Yeah.
You got something on your mind.
I got a couple of movies that I saw over the last week. Some incredible movies. This particular one I saw last night.
Merle's movie reviews.
It was called Solomon Northrop's Odyssey, and this was. It was an amazing story about a guy who was kidnapped back in the 1840s, a black guy up in New York, and sold into slavery. Now, I was watching this movie. It's an amazing story of what happens, and I thought the story kind of seemed familiar as I was watching it. This was aired in 1984, and it turns out that another movie was made about the same story. It's a true story called 12 Years a Slave, which won several Academy Awards. But this was, I guess, one of the first movies that was done on this. What a crazy story this guy has. 12 years. He was in slavery for 12 years, and they finally figured out up north where he was. The fact is that when he got sold into slavery, they took him down to New Orleans and sold him on the slave market, and they changed his name. So the people that were looking for him up north had no way of being able to find him. Anyway, it's an amazing, it really is an odyssey, how this person was able to survive it, and really what was happening in the deep South during the slave period. It's just terrifying and terrible. But one of the good things that came out of this story for Solomon Northrop is that he was an educated man. And when he was finally freed, he put together an autobiography and put that on the market in 1852. It became a bestseller. Wow. And this was part of what sparked the abolitionist movement. Interestingly, also in 1852, another book came out by Harriet Beecher Stowe called Uncle Tom's Cabin, which also was a big part of what sparked the abolitionist movement, also a big bestseller. I just read that book last year. And interestingly, the Uncle Tom was actually a slave in New Orleans as well, along the same Red River, which is a notorious area for slavery because there's a lot of farming that's done there. But anybody that would think about escaping, it was virtually impossible to escape from, because it was, the whole area is surrounded by swampland and snakes, and of course there were slave catchers there, so there was really no way to get out of it. Slavery was particularly brutal in that area. And of course, Uncle Tom, in that story, he had been transferred from a slave plantation in Tennessee where there was like a good owner that really took care of his slaves. But due to gambling, he had to sell his slaves. And Uncle Tom got sold down into New Orleans, where the word was that if you got sold down into that area, then you would die, in those labor situations. So crazy story, highly recommend it if you get a chance.
Would you catch it on
that one? This was on Turner Classic Movies, which, by the way, I love that station. These old movies, they just don't make them like that anymore. I mean, I know that sounds cliche, but they really don't. And I happened to see another one, which was Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly. And I thought, I'd never seen that movie before. And I almost didn't want to watch it because I'm not into that kind of dance kind of movie or whatever. But I forced myself to watch, once you get past the beginning and the theme music, it's like, it was freaking hilarious. That is a funny movie. It's really a rom-com. The dancing in it was actually amazing. Gene Kelly is outstanding in this movie, but the comedy in this movie was actually really good. I would not recommend this movie to you right now, Barry, until you get over your rib thing.
Yeah, there you go, for sure. I just started watching a couple nights ago a new series, and it's really wild. The premise is totally wild when you think about the day and age we live in. It's called Clickbait. And
I feel like I've heard of that.
Well, it's really new. And I'll just tell you a little bit. Well, I haven't finished it, but it's about this guy. He's married, young, I'd say later 20s, something like that. They do have a couple kids, and it's seen mostly through the eyes of the guy's sister. And anyways, the guy ends up disappearing. This is right, boom, right away in episode 1. He disappears, and inadvertently, the sister sees a video on social media and goes, "Oh my God, that's my brother. He's beaten up, bloody, and he's holding a sign that says, 'I abuse women.'" And then he's made to put that down and hold up another sign that says, "I will be killed when this hits 5 million clicks, views." Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
then, you know
So
what happens?
she watched it. Wow.
So yeah, this starts going viral. And so here's the bittersweet thing. It's like, well, it's spreading awareness about this. Everybody's really interested. Yet, oh my God, now the clicks, they got this ticker running. And it is just going faster and faster and faster towards 5 million. And it hits 5 million. And the guy has disappeared. And that's and then like all of the comments section, this is like as if it's on YouTube or whatever. They don't call it that. It could be on any social media platform, to tell you the truth. Same thing. All the comments are just speculation about what a horrible person this is. Now they're taking sides. You don't know his story. How do you know everything that goes on today? And extremely interesting. Extremely interesting.
Where do you get to see this?
That's on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix.
Okay. Clickbait. Wow. Interesting. That sounds mind-blowing.
Yeah, just it's fascinating. Like I think it's very clever, the way that it's written when you think about the day and age we're in. All right, so this is still within the entertainment part, sports though. Did you see this a couple days ago?
I heard about it. I did not see it.
Now, this is about Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James was ejected from Sunday's game in Detroit after delivering a brutal blow to the face of Pistons center Isaiah Stewart, who was left with a gruesome cut over his right eye. And boy, I've seen a lot of different video on this. And this one doesn't show it that well. This is the predominant video that you'll see, and it's right here at the very beginning. I'll hit it a couple of times. Now, do you see him right there? Right there. And but there's somewhat, yeah, but you saw the results of it, and yeah, it was totally deliberate. I just wonder what this is still from above. I saw a couple of videos from above that were a lot better, but I think this is it right here. Yeah. Let's open this thing up. And okay, we just missed that by about a second.
Where's LeBron on this?
Okay, right here.
Oh, I see him now.
Nope, right down there. And then you just saw replay it because it goes really quick.
It sure does.
See that?
Yes, now I do. Right.
Let me try that again.
So that looks he had
last
that
time.
planned. Yep.
That was elbow and one more time. Elbow and fist right here.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Now the end result certainly was
like a sucker punch right there.
Yeah. So then this guy, Isaiah Stewart, just went nuts trying to escape being held back from everybody and go after LeBron. And I mean, somebody made the comment of, my God, if the Detroit Lions had a running back that could break that many tackles, that they'd be in the Super Bowl. So it seemed really out of character for LeBron. But the game
I've never heard of him doing anything like that.
The game goes really quick though, and it's intense, and God only knows that they're trash talking with each other, or maybe they do a lot of elbowing in there.
They really do. I mean, basketball is it's sort of a brutal sport when you get down in the paint and everything. And it's you got to be tough. Although that just was unacceptable what happened. I mean, it looked like he was planning that from the start.
He really, yeah. Well, I don't know. I really don't know. It looked to me like he was frustrated, and the frustration got to him. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe the guy was covering him way better than he thought LeBron should be covered,
LeBron's always in the news no matter what happens. He makes himself the story, and
he does.
It's pretty crazy. We have him out here in Los Angeles now, and it's like he followed me out here apparently. But I don't know. Do people still like LeBron? I don't know.
Not really. I mean, I don't know. I'm very far removed from the basketball scene, but just the sentiment that I'll hear on sports talk radio every now and then is not really. Yeah. He opens up his mouth too much and saying that he's educated, and he's not educated on a subject very well.
Well, he certainly seems to be a mouthpiece for parties that I am not a fan of. So
right. Hey, just segueing a little bit, wondering if you saw anything about NASA's first ever planetary defense mission is ready to launch this week. It actually did yesterday to test if an asteroid can be deflected by crashing a spacecraft into it at 15,000 miles an hour. Think the movie Armageddon.
Yeah.
You know. Well, basically, yeah. Yesterday, as I recall, the spacecraft took off, and it's this box-shaped thing. It got a little animation of
how big that thing is. Holy cow!
Well, it's actually tiny when you.
Oh yeah, in the
watch. See, this is it. It takes a giant rocket to take this tiny little thing out there, and then so this is the animation of what it's to do. It's got a solar panel there to charge it to get it up to speed, and then when you watch the impact, it's like, man, I hope it's got a nuclear warhead on it, because I don't see this doing a whole lot. But I think the whole thing is fascinating. See how little? Kidding. I mean, I guess you could say it looks little.
Well, yeah, it looks little.
Yeah.
But so they actually crashed it already into the.
No, it just launched yesterday, I think it was, and I think it's going to take a year before the impact.
I see.
It reaches it. So here it's about to, in the animation, it's about to hit, and watch this. Oh, why didn't it?
Well, that's weird. I guess that they want us to tune in for the next episode.
I must have saw another one. Where'd it go? Because I watched the impact. Yeah, maybe this is it. Yeah, this should be it. It's short, 22 seconds. And it's kind of like, that asteroid is going to be
like you threw a pebble at it.
Not even that, like a fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what I saw. We had to watch that whole video
with the music, with the Captain Kangaroo music.
Right. But I think it's kind of, I always like space stuff anyway. And
yeah. So what are they, I guess they're thinking anytime an asteroid might be threatening the Earth, that this would be
to be prepared for it. How much force does it take? Like, I would think that they have mathematical models that could totally figure that out.
I would think so too. I always want to think about, I always look at our space programs, and when they tell us they're doing something like this, I always think there might be some kind of other reason why they're doing this, because typically our space program, it's a good thought. Talk about all these flowery things that are really cool, that stimulate our mind, but usually it has something to do with defense. And sure. I wonder if they're thinking, well, what if China, for instance, put something up there that can deflect a meteor into our country? How do we deflect it out of our country?
Interesting, dude. Yeah. I think it was yesterday I saw headlines, and for some reason I didn't bother taking the notes on it, but China claimed that they have, maybe they're talking about their hypersonic missiles, but they said that they could take out all of our missiles, no problem. And that's like, whoa, man. They've been getting very aggressive in their speech.
Yeah, they really have. It's really very threatening the way that they have been, especially they've seemed to have ratcheted up the talk. We talked last week about the Joe Biden summit, and interestingly, this week, Jen Psaki was asked about well, did Joe Biden bring up coronavirus and investigating the Wuhan lab? And she, semi-professionally dodged the answer to that question, saying that everybody knows that's on the top of our agenda, but she would never directly answer the question, did he actually bring it up during the summit?
It's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, they're not gonna answer that question. It feels like that Biden got owned in that summit.
Sure he did.
But we'll probably never actually know the real details of what happened in the summit. I don't think China's ever going to allow any kind of real investigation of what happened there. But we did hear earlier this week that there's some kind of connection to the country of Laos, and that there's these bats that are in Laos that have been, and I wouldn't say discovered, they were known, but we're just uncovering this, that the DNA of the corona cells, and for lack of better term, were very closely matched to corona virus 19, COVID-19, and that there's some kind of connection between the Wuhan lab and this bat cave in Laos. So they feel like they're getting a little bit closer to identifying where this all came from. Who knows, though?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see anything about that. I mean, I know that we got the big news that is, heavily covered this week. God, it's been something between Rittenhouse and the guy that mowed through that parade in, you know how to say that town,
Waukesha. Yeah,
there you go. There you go. Boy, that's a whole lot of stuff going on right there. I'd say what was kind of interesting that maybe hasn't been beaten to death in the news yet is because it just came out. Rittenhouse is threatening to have his lawyers sue Biden. He's asking for an official apology from Biden for calling him a white supremacist. And then, man, I heard somebody on Crystal and Saga, they are interviewing some journalist, a left-wing journalist, who's saying everybody's getting all upset about white supremacists, but what they don't understand is what it means to you is different than what it means to us. Here we go with the redefining of words again. And so she was trying to argue the point, and they were really allowing it, that white supremacist is kind of like in line with the whole systemic racism, white privilege. That's kind of what it is. So now we're lowering and changing and twisting definition of words. Boy, that's going on all the time, and I really find that disturbing. Yeah, but I find the defamation of character thing to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think he probably has a really good case on that. I saw Kyle Rittenhouse interviewed on Tucker Carlson this week, and it was a pretty interesting interview. You forget the guy's only 18. I mean, he's a kid. Just to go on a show like that, I can imagine being super nervous about that whole thing. And he came off pretty calm, even though he said that he was freaking out.
Yeah, I thought he was very well put together, probably very well rehearsed. Remember what I said about taking the speech class, and just got to be super prepared. So no matter how nervous you are, it just comes out.
Yeah, after being in the spotlight the way that he has been over the last year, I guess that you start to get used to being in the spotlight. But boy, it's really interesting to me, Barry, to hear the different points of view coming about this Rittenhouse trial. I mean, you and I think both saw a lot of videotape evidence from the trial. We heard a lot of information about this, but it's amazing to me to hear some takes from the other side. For me, it was very clearly self-defense that was happening. Maybe he shouldn't have been where he was as a 17-year-old kid.
That. I don't understand that. What was his motivation? There was talk about that he shouldn't cross state lines with the gun, but then the gun was already over there. He didn't bring it with him. All of that was a whole lot of I don't know, mucky stuff going on.
Well, there's a lot of talk right now about the misinformation that was really perpetrated by the news. And I would say that it was all around. We didn't get the whole story from any news station, really. Yes. One of them was regarding that gun, and the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse actually worked in Kenosha at the time that this happened. He was a lifeguard there. His father actually lives in Kenosha. He considers Kenosha to be his town. And we were never told any of that type of information. We've got a story here from Rittenhouse's lawyer who was ripping MSNBC and CNN for missing basic facts in an interview that we saw this week, where let's see, I'm just pulling this up right now, where he was talking about one of the reporters who, let's see, and Joe Scarborough, actually.
I used to like that guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way about him, and then he kind of like went
nutty left.
Yeah, and so Scarborough, this is something he says, and when I hear, first off, he's saying, just in the last 2 weeks, you people may not believe this, but I watch MSNBC and CNN. This is Rittenhouse's lawyer. And he says, I'm not a big Fox guy. And when I hear Joe Scarborough saying my client shot his gun 60 times, that's wrong. And when I hear some guest hosts on Joy Reid say my client drove 4 hours to go to a riot with his AR, that's wrong. It's false. And, some people believed that Rittenhouse went up there, snuck across state lines to kill Black people, and then he killed 2 or 3 Black people at a Black Lives Matter rally, a peaceful protest. And just, that's so crazy how that kind of story went out.
Yeah.
Here's another one that I was seeing too, is that this person says that she has elderly relatives that only watch NBC nightly news and had no idea about the BLM Antifa riots and saw only coverage of peaceful marches. And they called me on January 6th in tears and said, you never called me this upset during the riots last year, I remarked to one. And they said, what riots?
Well,
really
that's
crazy.
For sure. Yeah, if you watch that one side of the news, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's too bad. Hey, but so I saw this really interesting story that, and this was on Fox News. This is Lawrence Jones. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy before.
Yeah, I like him.
I really like him too. And I'm just going to read this because he was talking about this story and how, these people are in the media saying, well, if Kyle Rittenhouse would have been a Black guy, they would have thrown him under the jail. And you hear this on all kinds of stations, and just people in general say this. I had somebody tell me this before. And I'm just going to read this, what he said. If liberal media were actually journalists, they wouldn't have to ask, what if this happened to a Black man? We know, look no further than the story of Andrew Coffey the fourth. So instead, let me do their job and tell America what happened. In March 2017, Andrew Coffey was asleep in his home when a SWAT team arrived with a search warrant for his father. When police detonated a flashbang device before entering, Coffey woke up thinking he was being robbed. Being a gun over, Coffey opened fire, looking to defend his home. When police returned fire, Andrew's girlfriend, Alteria Woods, was tragically caught in the crossfire and killed by police. Now, each side claimed the other shot first, but it was Coffey who was eventually charged with second-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted murder of law enforcement. After more than 4 years of legal proceedings, Coffey's name was cleared on Friday, just this past Friday, when he was found not guilty of murder and attempted murder charges. Coffey was still found guilty of a weapon possession charge and will face sentencing for that. But here's the important part. The decision came down the same day as the Rittenhouse verdict, and yet everyone on the left chose to ignore it. And you have to ask yourself why. Well, we know that's because Andrew Coffey's story doesn't fit into their narrative. So there it is.
It's true.
It's so crazy. And you make this point all the time, Barry, about how it seems to me that a lot of people in the general public are starting to realize that the news media, the mainstream news media, and I include Fox in this as well, is just not telling us the true story out there. They've got an agenda. It seems like the agenda is to pit us against each other.
It
so
is.
we can't actually speak to each other, and we hate everybody, and we're just divided, and we feel like victims so that we can be manipulated in some way. And that's opened up the door for alternative media like these podcasts, like we're a part of, to actually come and tell what really happened. And people are starting to get it.
Well, make no mistake that this political elite they know pushing the racial narrative out there gets us all pitted against each other while they're passing these horrible bills that are just laced with what's the corporate interest stuff, which they just get their palms greased on. And so that's really what it's about. It's push the racial narrative, and it works every time. People then fight amongst themselves. Here's one for you. I'll bet you nobody knows about this, especially if you're on the left, because here's the New York Times spin on it. Just the heading: Jeff Bezos gives $100 million to the Obama Foundation. Isn't that nice? Oh, that's so nice that he dedicated to the Obama Foundation. Sounds like the Clinton Foundation. Sounds like a money laundering scheme to me. But Crystal and Sagar did a beautiful segment on this. I have a link to a 9-minute video, a YouTube video. So you got to watch it because they really bring it. And basically, they give the credit to the journalist who uncovered this. He followed the breadcrumbs. And so Bezos is actually caught giving $100 million to Obama's fake library. And that's the heading for their news segment here.
Wow.
This independent journalist tracks the $100 million donation to the Obama Foundation, and it's said to go to a personal library, not a true presidential library like every other president has done, that's run by the National Archive, right? Where historical things are all meant to be tidied up and everything is certified and legit. No, it's going to a personal library. It's a fake library. And of course, it's going to be a tribute to Obama himself. And it's being built, no less, it's being built on public parkland, which is also coming under debate. So you're not going to catch that on your favorite left-leaning journalistic platform, for sure. And this is just sickening. This is the Obamas. They talked about this on there too. As soon as they got out of office, Barack goes parading around with billionaire guy that goes into space, a British guy, Virgin Airlines guy.
Virgin Airlines guy, right.
And Bezos, and Bezos, and this story is about Bezos. So, and then wasn't it just a month or two ago? They just threw this lavish party or birthday party.
Yeah.
And
no one was wearing masks or anything like that.
They're so above it all. They're in this celebrity elite kind of class now.
Yeah. And that's sick, isn't it? I mean, doesn't it just send a message loud and clear? I mean, Paris Hilton, for instance, got married recently. You look at the photos of that. No one's wearing masks except for the people serving. They got to wear masks, but all of the super rich people, no one's wearing masks. And it just brings you back to these sci-fi movies. What was it? Soylent Green. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but
you mentioned that before.
Very, very similar. Like the elite, they're able to have steak and they live in these posh places, and and they're not wearing masks. They wear masks in that particular movie. It's from the 70s. But everybody else, they can't have meat, and they're basically eating this Soylent Green, which is humans. Anyway,
we're going down that road.
Boy, it sure does seem that way. And
we're just like commodity. I mean, the average everyday people, we're just commodity now, and they're just trying to get us to produce, and they just keep sucking the money out of us, and they're taking it every which way, except back to us.
Yeah, and back to the $100 million from Bezos. First off, you're right. It sounds like money laundering to me as well, because these foundations really skyrocketed as soon as the IRS was formed back in the 19 teens. And the reason was, all these philanthropic foundations came out, the Rockefeller Foundation being one of them. These super rich people found a way to to hide their money so they wouldn't be taxed by the IRS. Yeah. And then that money is really not accounted for. And a lot of times the money, and I'm not accusing anybody, but I do know this, that a lot of times the money is being used in high crime, even terrorism. Sure. And so these are things that when you take a look at who's behind these things, I think that there needs to be a lot more investigative journalism by people like Crystal and Saagar for that as well.
In the same podcast episode, now they put out their segments on YouTube and everything. And, I don't need to waste my time watching it. I like to listen to it when I'm at the gym or shopping or whatever. So I listen to the whole episode. I'm trying to say, I strongly suggest that you guys do it too. Go to your favorite podcast channel of choice and type in Breaking Points and it'll come up. They blow away the ratings of mainstream media. And they just keep growing as mainstream media keeps shrinking in their ratings. And further, so they also mentioned within the same podcast about Hunter Biden. I forget, I'm paraphrasing everything here, but he is known to own 10% of stock, I believe, in a particular Chinese company. And as it became known, and he was on the board of directors. So, and this company happens to produce the cobalt.
Yes.
It goes into batteries, which, wow. So why would they want Hunter, who's not really qualified to do anything other than smoke crack? Why do they want him on the board of directors? Why does he have 10% stake in this? Well, cobalt being part of batteries. Well, what happens if the electric car industry gets a big push? Well, look who gets rich and look who gets kickbacks. Our CNL president. So this is how that all goes. And back to the main point, if you keep the public all stirred up with racism stuff and all this propaganda, all this fake news, then they're never going to see all of this that's going on right under their nose. They're not even going to notice every politician, Republican and Democrat, and getting big fat rich cat off of the pharmaceutical industries getting pushed back when they're supposed to be fighting for lowering pharmaceutical prices within the Build Back Better bill. They've been promising that since like 2008. And they pull it out. They put it in there and then, they're demanding that we strip things down. So what goes out first? The pharmaceutical stuff. They strip that down to something like 2,000 drugs were supposed to be able to be negotiated. It's down to 25. And I think, if I recall, Saagar goes over that. If I recall, that doesn't even go into effect until after this administration is out. So by the time a new administration comes, they'll just renegotiate it. In other words, nothing happens here. And people like Kirsten Sinema, she ran on a platform of rehabilitating the whole pharmaceutical industry. And boy, does she do an about face, especially when I think it's called Big Front Pharma. Put $1.25 million behind her in campaign.
Oh, man, she's
totally
so crazy. Off. But Barry, you brought up several subjects right there, and I find it interesting how these all might be tied together. We talked about the summit that happened, and we didn't hear anything about it. Yeah. You brought up Hunter Biden and the cobalt thing. You think about it, is that, like you said, Joe Biden actually came up with all cars need to be electric by 2030. I mean, that's right around the corner. Yeah. You've got Biden talking about the environment and global, I guess it's called climate change. Now it's not global warming anymore because it got colder. So now you got to call it something else, redefining once again, another one we brought up. Cobalt is notorious for damaging and destroying the land through the mining process. You've got the pharma thing, which is really, these pharmacy people have gotten super rich and they're funneling the money back into campaigns. And then you've got the COVID thing, which is the reason why these pharma companies have have blown up in the first place, much of that being our own tax dollars. Yeah. And then you've got the Wuhan lab thing coming from China. And then you think, okay, well, no wonder we're not hearing anything from the summit, because all of this information is all tied together. And if we really knew what was going on here, it would destroy the whole system that these people seem to be perpetrating on us.
Aren't you hit it on the head? And mainstream media is completely complicit in this, as
they're
we know.
Owned. Yeah.
They're totally owned. So a third, probably a quarter of the population that relies on that for their news. You try to talk to them and tell them a few of these things that we brought up, and they don't believe you. They think, oh, what did you get that off of Fox News? and then it's dismissed. It's allowed to be dismissed.
It's so crazy but that's the whole strategy, right? Is that it's just like Rittenhouse has become a bad word, just like Trump has become. Trump wasn't a bad word until he became president, or
as an independent, basically someone outside the swamp. That made everyone panic.
Everybody loved him, though. They all loved his money. There, you see all these people.
I wouldn't say everyone loved him. He's a sleazy guy.
But they were all like, they loved his money. That's what they loved, right? They were all over. They invite him over here, invite him over there, and then when it was, see, this is the whole thing: is that they've got a smear tactic that when they're done with you, they put you in the media machine and you come out like crap.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The whole thing. Oh, hey, wait, I want to make sure we cover this because we talked about it last week. This Peng Shui, I think that's how you say her last name.
Yes. She turned up. She turned up on first, like we talked about last week. There was an email that the CCP put out there, and we heard about how she was out there. But the what is it? The American or the International Tennis League, they said that hey, that's not good enough, and they let's see here. I'm trying to find this. So now there's all these pictures of her that are out there, and they've got video of her having dinner with some friends. But there's still some speculation about, is she really free? Is she really? Is this really? Is she really able to really bring charges against the ex vice chair? Oh, I'm sure she denounced that. That they have video of her denouncing that. And I heard that somewhere, and it sounded like, oh my God, there's somebody afraid for their life.
Here's what Steve Simon said, the WTA, World Tennis Association president. He said, "I'm glad to see the videos released by China state-run media that appear to show Feng Shui at a restaurant in Beijing. While it is positive to see her, it remains unclear if she's free and able to make decisions and take action on her own without coercion and external interference. The video is insufficient." So he's still saying that until he realizes that the future of China being a part of the association is still to be determined. So we'll see what happens. But and boy, knowing the CCP the way that they are, though, they definitely have control of that whole thing. So very interesting. Here's something that I found interesting: was there was a video that had Winnie the Pooh in the background, and Winnie the Pooh. I don't actually have it, but apparently Winnie the Pooh is not something that they're able to show in Chinese media because of the similarity between Winnie the Pooh and Xi Jinping. It's hilarious to me.
Oh my God.
So that kind of ruins Winnie the Pooh for me, that they think he looks like.
I loved Winnie the Pooh when I was a kid.
Me too.
All right, let's round this up with some more local stuff for you. Can you hear this?
Yes. Oh no, it's kind of in the background.
Oh, I see. I understand. I hate when I do that. I just didn't seem to get the option for the sound. But what I'm trying to show you is about dozens of looters target California Nordstrom's in a very violent robbery. And this is getting so disturbing.
I saw people running down the street. I probably saw 50 to 80 people in like ski masks, crowbars, like a bunch of weapons.
In one dramatic scene, a car veered around a police SUV to make a getaway, but another officer stopped him with his gun drawn. 3 people were arrested. All are charged with robbery. One of them is also charged with being a felon in possession of a gun. NBC Bay Area has obtained a still image from a security camera inside Nordstrom's during the robbery. A company spokesperson says 5 of their employees were injured, police saying at least 3 workers were assaulted, 1 with pepper spray. And tonight, there is still cause for concern. Walnut Creek police took to social media warning about the possibility of another robbery. Some high-end shops like Tiffany's closed early. Janet Catalano and Marnie Pantar were the last customers in the store as staff locked their doors. How are they in there?
They're a little nervous.
Definitely.
They are a little nervous for sure, as I would be too if I worked retail in this area right now.
In a prepared statement, the mayor of Walnut Creek says the city is actively working to try to prevent any of these incidents from happening here again. And you can see that they are already taking efforts. The street going through Broadway Plaza Mall has been blocked off for most of the day. And police officers are everywhere. Nordstrom's is still closed, a bit of an inconvenience for customer Frank Augustin, who couldn't return a pair of shoes.
It's such a shame that we have to worry about this. And you see it in San Francisco, at the Louis Vuitton on Friday night.
The situation in Walnut Creek coming just 24 hours after a similar robbery in San Francisco. 9 stores were either burglarized or vandalized. Some store workers were also.
All right, that's enough. Thank you to NBC News on that. They get full credit for that. But okay, at what point, people, do we say, all right, the defunding the police thing and giving people credit for being able to steal $950 worth of merchandise at a time are dumb ideas?
Boy, I tell you what, you're seeing a pattern here, right? I mean, we've got this. One of them is the DAs in both of these towns. Waukesha with this thing that happened with the guy that ran over all of those people. I guess it's 6 dead now. Right. And you've also got this thing in San Francisco. Both of these DAs have been advocates of really not criminalizing the criminals. And both of them have serious funding that have come from George Soros as well. That's a problem across the country, actually. And so, what they've done is they've let these people out with very low bail or no bail whatsoever. They're both into bail, what they call bail reform, where they're letting violent criminals out on the street, and when they're caught, they let them back out, oftentimes with no bail, to terrorize our cities.
Now
and
they're arguing
this is happening.
They're arguing that under the guise of that this is a prejudice against poverty-stricken people because they don't have the money for a bail. But if you're richer and commit a crime, you obviously have the money. But what isn't being looked at is the risk assessment. All right, this guy that did the Waukesha.
Yes.
All right, committed those atrocities, already had, I think, 9, maybe 10 other felonies under his belt, serious crimes, the last of which being trying to run over his girlfriend or ex-wife.
Yeah.
So, he's already tried to run over somebody. And then his bail was $1,000.
It was only a couple of weeks before this happened. He tried to run over his girlfriend.
It's madness. It's pure madness.
Right.
And again,
we're
putting this all under the guise of some kind of a prejudice or something. And
it's interesting to me to see these people now talking tough. We won't accept this in our town. Both of them are saying those kinds of things when they're the ones that actually caused this to happen. And our governor as well here in California is, we're not going to accept this. We're going to prosecute them to the fullest extent. Well, wait a second, Governor Newsom, you're the guy during COVID that let all of these violent criminals out of jail, saying that the risk was too high to keep them in jail because of COVID. You guys are the ones that are letting these people out on the streets, making it so unsafe. And now look, you had nearly 50 people were seriously injured in this car thing. I don't even know what to call it. It was so sick. And we got 6 people dead. One of them is a little kid. I saw a video where one little kid, and he couldn't have been more than 3 years old. She almost got just mowed down by that car shortly before he just drove right into the crowd. What a sick, evil thing that's going on here. And we've got to really pay attention to who we're electing here, especially in local areas, because it's incumbent on us to make sure we don't fall for these platitudes that we hear about racism and everything. They're using that to destroy our communities.
Well, you got dummies that are really gullible people, like who's that squad members? Her name Rashida. What's her name?
Rashida Tlaib.
That's what I thought it was. I saw a video of her like yesterday, and somebody was asking her, okay, so with what we've seen, the atrocities lately, you have been this proponent of letting everybody out of the federal prisons. Do you see that anything could go sideways there? And she stuttered and stammered and laughed like Kamala, the nervous, totally unprepared. How do you have such a radical, for years, like have such a radical stance and have no way of answering that question?
It's
like a complete fool.
Like, okay, how did they not know that this was going to happen eventually too? Right. I mean, this is the whole thing. And this is it. This is where I think the most insulting thing is that they think that we're idiots and that we're just going to buy whatever they say, even when they don't even say anything. Like you're the example you're giving, that we're just going to give them a pass for this because we're that dumb.
They'll wrap it in racism, and then you can't have the conversation. Got a final thing, lighten this up because we're going to just get into the after show. We're okay. And, but this is a really good one, and we can do anything, says deaf high school.
I saw
team.
this.
Did you? So cool, man. They go on to deaf high school football team in California, your whereabouts, defied all odds and came up with this undefeated season. This is like amazing to me.
It really is.
Yeah, I have a video of it, but it's about, it's 3 minutes long. I don't want to go through all of that. And I'm sorry, they deserve it though. But the players and coaches rely on the American Sign Language to communicate. And quote, it's inspiring for the deaf community, quite honestly. 11-0, and we've never experienced this being this far in the playoffs, said Coach Keith Adams on ABC News. The community is so excited. The morale has been uplifted. The self-esteem has uplifted the self-esteem of our players. You can see a major difference. And I'll leave a link for this in the show notes because the video is worth watching, and the players being interviewed is super inspiring. So it's just terrific. And I mean, I can't believe that they can overcome how do you communicate like that on a football field and have that kind of effectiveness?
Well, it's interesting when I think about it. I played a little high school football, and I remember thinking about how we had to communicate on the field. And sometimes what they would do is they would try to simulate the noise of the crowd, which that never worked in high school. But, when there really is crowd noise, you can't really hear very well.
That's a good point
there. So sometimes it could be an advantage to not be able to hear. I remember I was a wide receiver, and one of the things that would happen is, especially if it was like a pop pass over the middle, and as you're running to catch that, and the ball's in the air, you hear the people all around you that are coming to crush you, and that can just freak you out, and you lose your focus. So sometimes I could see it being an advantage, but kudos to them. I can see it was a big uphill battle for them, and 11-0, that is spectacular. Hey, Barry, I've got one thing I wanted to share with you. This is, I was talking to Hallie and Brandon when they were over the other day, my kids, and we were talking about, have you ever seen a baby pigeon? You never see a little pigeon out there. So we decided to look it up, and here's what we found. It's what a baby
Oh my
pigeon
God.
looks like.
Oh,
So that is a face only a mother could love right there. Apparently, the reason we don't see baby pigeons is that they stay in the nest for a long time, actually, until they actually grow their feathers out. So nobody actually gets to see this, but this is probably one of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life.
This is a good reason, a further evidence of why you should listen to this podcast rather than watch the video. Hey, by the way, I want to mention that we are now on our video. If you do prefer video, our video is now on Spotify. YouTube will probably eventually eliminate our video altogether. So it'd be great. I'm going to start sharing that Spotify link along with the YouTube, and it'd be great if some of you convert over there. That would be fantastic.
Right on,
and
Barry.
with that, the best thing you could do is go to over50startingover.com and sign up for our email list so you get everything as it happens. See you guys next week.